Hello my friends, I am Indie Pride and welcome back to Total War Warhammer 2 and Mortal Empires, the combined campaign map uniting the New World, Ulthuan, Naggaroth, Lustria, and the Southlands with the Old World from Game 1. We're on an early access build for this video, and only 34 turns into the campaign, Archaon's invasion of Ulthuan has begun. We've landed at the Shrine of Khaine on the Blighted Isle with the Warriors of Chaos in tow, and it's time to erect their own monument in the name of Karneth, Khorne, the Hunter of Souls. I wanted to showcase the role-playing and sandbox elements you have with the campaign that's this massive, so I thought that sailing from the Chaos Wastes almost from the get-go and saying hello to the New World in the only way Archaon knows how would be a great demonstration of the possibilities players will have available to them on October 26th. It took me 20 turns to sail from the Norscan camps at the eastern edge of the peninsula all the way to where we are now. A very long journey, hounded by raiders and the Dark Elves of Karankar for most of that trip, but we finally made it to our destination and are about to begin a bloody war with the White Lions and the Hunters of Khaine, a hardened people who have been on the front line of Dark Elf incursions for millennia. But Archaon and the Warriors of Chaos aren't Dark Elves. They're another breed entirely, something the Azure will soon find out. Now, the White Lions of Khaine have served as the guardians of the Phoenix King since the reign of Caledor the Conqueror thousands of years ago, so it should be a pretty good challenge. We're going to start the war with them, and Safri and the Lore Masters of the White Tower look to be allied with Khaine for the moment, and will be joining the war against us, and it probably won't take very long until the entirety of the continent is up in arms against the Warriors of Chaos, which might be a little bit tricky for us. So early game elves don't match up very well against Chaos at all. 100 plus armor and strong missile block chance render their archers pretty much obsolete, and their spearmen can hold a decent amount of time, but they don't do any damage. But Tyrion, Blood of Anarion, and the capital city of Lothern are often powerhouses even at this early stage. They can quickly expand and consolidate their position, so eliminating some factions before the kingdoms can unite and bear down on us all together at once is of the utmost importance. Fighting 1 or 2 stacks at a time won't be too much of an issue, but 10 kingdoms versus 1 chaos army might be a little lopsided for them. You're going to need more kingdoms than that if you want to kick us off the continent, knife ears. And the monument that has stood since before Anarion the Defender drew the Sword of Khaine, delivering his people and dooming his line in that selfless act, is gone. Wiped off the face of the map, and in its place, a portal to the warp. Can't wait to see demons start flowing out of those things. It'll be a fun time. Now, leveling the city has just unlocked us Dorgar, Pony of the Apocalypse, because apparently every legendary lord in the game except for the Stunties are way too big for their horses. I really wish Dorgar was Clydesdale size. That might make him feel a bit more intimidating, but regardless, the demon horse gives Archaon a lot more mobility and prevents him from being knocked over and bullied constantly by anything bigger than a troll. Tor Anlec is next on the agenda. This famous city was the focal point of the Elven Empire during the First War against Chaos, and Anarion himself sat upon its throne. It was destroyed during the Sundering by the magical backlash that ripped apart the continent, but was rebuilt several times afterwards when Malekith and the Dark Elves invaded from the north. Each time the incursions were stopped, the Azure tore down the city again. And Archaon needs another champion in his army, so he calls upon the services of Crom the Conqueror, Herald of the Everchosen, Captain of the Swords of Chaos. Vardek Crom is a Kurgan champion of Chaos who slew 12 of Archaon's personal bodyguards in single combat, earning him a spot at the right hand of the Three-Eyed King. As we move towards the shadow of Anlec, the High Elves of Lothern are getting a little bit antsy. They have control of much of Ulthuan already, and Alistair the White Lion and even Tyrion himself are leading armies through the Phoenix Gate. They're at war with Khaine and Naggaroth too, so it's possible the diplomatic bonus from having mutual enemies might prevent them from attacking us just yet, but we are turning our back, so we'll need to be very wary on that front. And now it's time for battle. The Lord of the End Times has moved on Anlec, and before his wrath and the fury of the ruinous powers, nothing can stand for long. It's nice to be able to use these guys again. It's been a while. Still doesn't feel quite perfect without the marks and the units of the Chaos Gods themselves, but Chaos Undivided has its own undeniable charm. The headlining villains in Warhammer Fantasy, and the capital city of Old Naggaroth is about to take a pounding from the Everchosen. It's a brutal approach, bolt throwers and a whole lot of archers on the walls, but once Crom and the Chosen scale those walls, I imagine they'll make pretty good account of themselves as we get a beautiful shot of this famous city, a blend of Dark Elf and High Elf architecture to mark its ever-changing hands. Not a unique layout, unfortunately, but at least a nice nod to the lore there. So the Warriors of Chaos will begin their assault with the bolt throwers pounding down on them from above, and wade into melee with the Azure Spearmen, establishing that beachhead early on. And they should make very good account of themselves in melee here, as Kron the Conqueror gets in there as well, laying about like the exalted hero that he is, and he should be able to split a bunch of them in half. Now, unfortunately, we do not have the Blood Pack just yet. I don't even know if we're going to get early access to that. Hopefully we do, but it'll probably end up just being access that we get on Thursday like everybody else. So I would have loved to have been able to show a bunch of bloody stuff going on right now. Not really going to matter, though, as Archaon chops off Dorgar's head there with a little bit of clipping. But we're going to get a really beautiful burning head into the middle of the Azure Spearmen. And as a wind spell, Lore of Fire and Burning Head in general, much more impactful than it was in Game 1. A much better spell, and against the lower tier troops can definitely do a lot of damage. I do not envy the position these Azure archers are in right now, as Chosen with great weapons get a charge into them. And with those gigantic axes, very soon we will get to see them bisect and decapitate a bunch of fancy knife ears. Not going to get to see it today. Again, unfortunately, I would have loved to have played with the Blood Pack. I'm really looking forward to it. I imagine it's going to be quite a lot like Game 1, but it's Warhammer. It really needs that blood, right? So with the archers dying here, the Azure are on the back foot. They will rout, and the Chosen and Warriors of Chaos under the command of Archaon the Everchosen will take control of Tor Anlec. As one might expect from the Chosen of the Dark Gods, Archaon has left untold devastation in his wake since landing on Ulthuan. War with Nagarath has broken out, the Lion of Chrace roars no more, and the Shadowlands burn. It was early in Phoenix King Finnebar's reign when the Princes Eldir and Tyrion fought here for control of the Salvation Isles and the Sundered Strand, where Eldir was surrounded and killed by the executioners of Hargoneth, and Tyrion avenged his friend by slaughtering his killers and a triad of Khainite assassins. A fourth, one of the deadliest in all of Nagarath, used the opportunity to close the gap with the legendary elf, and was inches from sinking his poisoned blades to the armor of Anarion when a single arrow, fired by the Shadow King Alathanar, stopped the assassin dead in his tracks. Tor Anlec, capital city of Tiranoc, famed for its charioteers, falls next into Archaon's malicious gaze. But it's also the toughest fight the Warriors of Chaos have had since landing. We'll let the full battle play out, and I'll rejoin you when it's done.
Charge them! My blade hungers! Charge them! Swords of chaos to me! My blade hungers! Kill the Southerners! Move fast! Ready! Move fast! This is done! Evil and foul! By their will! Ready! Ready! Burn it all! slaughter! I control Finch's gifts! Kill them! Ravage them! Give us ruin! Despoiling! Charge them! Ravage them! Move fast! I control Cheese blood! Ready! Move fast! So be it! The world will never! Move fast! Charge them! My blade hungers! Kill them all! My blade hungers! Wipe them out! Kill, maim, burn! Agreed! Charge them! I control Finch's gifts! My blade hungers! Wipe them out! Charge them! Ready! I am Kingslayer! Give us ruin! I don't need my sword to strike you down! Doom comes! Chaos will reign! Burn it all! Deliver slaughter! Running! Move fast! Running! Chaos will reign! Move fast! Running! Running! Kill them all! Frost in the arcade! The weakling nations fall! The winds are mine! My blade hungers! They will all pay! Charge them! Ready! Deliver slaughter! Move! Deliver slaughter! Fear me, mortals! Die in arcane fire! My blade hungers! Ravage them! Charge them!
Seas of blood! Move fast! Obliterate them!
Wipe them out! Give us ruin!
They will succumb!
Now, slay every mortal! Bow before the three-eyed king!
So, all the role-playing and atmosphere aside now, let's talk for a minute about Mortal Empires itself. I have not had anywhere near enough time with it to do any kind of full impressions video on the campaign, because I've only had it for like a day and a half, and a lot of that was spent playing multiplayer with Turin. You'll see plenty of those games up on both of our channels. But the pictures you've seen of the map do not do it justice. The campaign map is huge. Like I said, it took me 20 plus turns to sail from the Bearsling camp in the northern part of Norska, or eastern part of Norska, to the northern part of Ulthuan. And I imagine it might take about that many turns to walk from the easternmost edge of the Southlands to the west coast as well. The map is really, really big. If you're wondering about end turn times, they're about 45 seconds to a minute on average for me in the early game, but that will undoubtedly get longer as the campaign progresses. But I've not gotten very far into any Mortal Empires campaign yet, so I can't tell you what the late game is like in terms of end turns or the Archaon invasion or anything, because the furthest I've gotten is about 40 turns in with Archaon. There are a few things that are disappointing. For one, this beta build in terms of optimization is running a lot like Game 1 did for me, which is to say, noticeably worse than Game 2, honestly. So for instance, on that Tor Anlec siege I just showed, that exact map on Total War Warhammer 2, with New World factions, would have been running between 55 and 70 FPS for the entire battle, and I dropped into like 35-45 FPS territory frequently during that Archaon battle, which is a pretty sizable FPS drop, and the campaign map gets worse frames for me than the Vortex map as well. I have noticed that sometimes these early access builds run worse than the final releases do, and I'm sincerely hoping that's the case here, but I'm not really sure what's causing the difference between the two. Because literally, one of my favorite things about Game 2 is how well it runs on my system. So to sacrifice 10 to 15 FPS once this new patch rolls out would really suck. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but I imagine that's a very much a case-by-case, computer-by-computer basis. I'm sure for some people, Game 1 runs better than Game 2. I'm just not one of those people. The other obvious thing is the Norska patch. It appears that nothing from the Norska patch, including the free regiments of renown and reworked skill trees for lords, have been included just yet. To be fair, they did explicitly say that Mortal Empires could be dropping anywhere up to 2 months after launch, and we're getting it just now under a month. So it seems like CA is just saying, let's get the content we have ready out to people now so they can start playing and giving feedback, and meanwhile they'll work on integrating that Norska patch into Game 2 and hopefully take on board constructive criticism and feedback for the campaign they can include in the next patch. As long as Norska comes in November, they'll be keeping to the schedule they told us about. But the revelation that even the skill tree reworks and missing RORs aren't in is for sure gonna kill the hype some people had for trying out old world factions in the Mortal Empires campaign until that next patch rolls out. Because frankly, that was the patch that made a lot of the more generic and dull factions feel more Game 2 ready. So not having that content just yet is kind of unfortunate. With that said though, this Archaon playthrough snippet is a great example, I think, of the sandbox elements and awesome things you can do in this campaign. You can literally abandon Reichland if you want with Emperor Karl Franz, say peace out to your fellow Elector Counts, and establish a new colony in Lustria early on in the campaign, and completely forget about the traditional empire. You can sail to Ulthuan like I did with Archaon, or any of the Chaos Lords, and begin an invasion very early on in your campaign, and just get super aggressive, and get an entirely new playthrough that you wouldn't be able to do. I could have sailed to Nagaroth, could have gone to the Southlands or Lustria. There's a ton you can do there. I mean, if you want to play Grombrindal and go invade Nagaroth and avenge the biggest grudge of all, you can do that. We see Bretonnia here, colonizing Norska. There's just a lot going on in this campaign. It's gigantic. But, unfortunately, I can't go in depth with impressions or review just yet, because turn 40 or so with Archaon was all I had time to do before the NDA lifted. I might be doing some streams this week, if I can get some time in between video making, and if not, there will still be a bunch of videos on the way, so definitely stay tuned. But let me know what you think of this kind of format of the video, if you enjoyed this, and what you'd like to see in the coming days. And let me know what your impressions are of this campaign playthrough itself, and what you guys plan to do when you get your hands on Mortal Empire. So thank you all for watching, have a wonderful Monday, and I'll see you all in the next video. ND Pride, signing out for now.